too, Brew. Let
These
Wild
young
cook.
boys.
Let Wilds cook.
I don't want them thinking we think he's a GOAT.
But some people think he's the GOAT.
Yeah, I mean, your GOAT is just as ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. He's teaming up with Embiid and Maxey. Maxey also got a new deal. Some numbers for Embiid's kind of new squad. His running mates here, pretty good. Get some scoring. Paul George had great shooting last year. Title odds now: Boston, Denver, Philly jumps into a tie with OKC, followed by the Knicks and the Wolves.
Oh man, that Knicks tenure at number 3 odds was short-lived. Man.
So Vegas has them second in the East. Does anyone here have them at 1? Anyone at all? Even though Derek White also extended with the Celtics.
He was already on the team. That's
no
not
one
an
cares.
addition. No, people do care. People are less interested, Wilds, in players who are already on a team extending because it's not new and fresh. You know this, of course, and that's why it wasn't in the show.
Underreported.
And then you just, a minute before the show, you're like, why aren't we doing more on Derek White? So here's the thing. I have openly and repeatedly chastised Chris Broussard for whether it be about his beloved Clippers, the Nets, the Jets of late, prefacing things
Just
with
any team's mind.
no,
Any team say a
team-
favorable
just
comment
wait,
about
just
is
Brew,
my
medical
team now.
Brew, just wait a moment. Prefacing it with, if healthy, when those are teams who have you have a real sample to doubt their health. I've thought it's facile logic and reasoning. With that said,
Oh, here we go.
if healthy, I like the Sixers the most of anyone in the East.
Okay.
We have seen how difficult it is to repeat in the modern NBA. We also acknowledge that what we have in Philadelphia in Embiid, we have never in league history seen a player of his caliber never go on a deep playoff run. He's the only MVP ever to not make it to at least round 3, and all but 2 others have made it at least to the finals, you know what I mean, let alone win it. You then add to it that the Sixers are now, and I understand King of the Hill is not gospel, but I'm just going to show it as a general.
It sure ain't.
I understand, but you agreed with the general, a lot of the general parameters of it. We can show King of the Hill real quick. They are the only team with 3 guys in the top 25, and the only other team that you could make an argument for is Boston. They're the only one with 3 in the top 25. And as far as Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George.
Because Beal's not.
Right, because Beal's not even close to that, in my opinion. A lot of teams have 2 guys, you know what I mean? And the Celtics have 2 guys that are very high, and then you could argue if you want to say Drew.
Yeah, Drew's on the bottom row here.
Well, yeah, but that's not the top 25. He's like 28.
Wait, is Derek White on here?
Derek White was one of the people trying to get up there. But again, so the Celtics, Drew is down there, but he's not in the top 25.
Oh,
so no, he's not. It's not left to right, but if it were, he'd be 27. And so the point that I'm making is, I like the fit, Brew. We talk a lot when we see stars come together. Does it fit? Electric point guard that just scored 30 a game in the playoffs, dominant 7-2 center, and do-it-all wing who at worst is a dead-eye shooter coming off a career high from 3. That feels like a team that can make the NBA Finals. That's what I'm saying, bro.
I cry foul.
What do you mean?
You like just what you said. You always rip me for saying
mild
if
myself
healthy.
There. Yeah.
All right, and now
I think they're going to be healthy this year. I do.
I will say this. Good move by Daryl Morey. All right, now, I don't know if PG went there like, this is it. This is the only place I'm getting my $200 million. I mean, it really didn't seem like he wanted to go there. I thought
that was based off one like Shane.
But he just didn't seem that enthusiastic.
What do you want him to do? He wore an
like when he's there with Embiid.
He was trying to
you're
play
laughing,
cool.
You're joking. Hey,
you're saying there's already strife.
Come get me, Joel. Come get me.
That's what he said.
No, he didn't.
He did a little bit like, he did this.
No, Embiid did that.
Yeah,
Paul George just sat there.
He
like
wasn't
a
on camera.
mummy. Oh my God. I'm just saying. But anyway, and
But now
I
he
think
picked
that's
them.
where Philly's
But
report.
he picked
I think that's
them.
where the reports of Philly came. They not interested
Or-
because they felt like, man, he don't want to
Man.
come here. He's coming for the money.
You want him to
I
show
don't
up in a
blame him
Sixers
either.
hat
I'm not
like a
mad
draft
at
day?
him. All right, look, I like the move because it's a great
Fit
fit.
is perfect. Thank
You've got a point guard. You've got a big man, albeit a perimeter-oriented one, but still a big man and a swing man. He's obviously a much better upgrade over Tobias Harris. And you brought back Kelly Oubre.
Right.
So,
Hello.
like, I like, on paper, they're
And
great.
you got a
but-
backup center in Drummond to eat
Yeah,
minutes.
that was
Because remember, they
Didn't
died.
they get Eric Gordon, too?
They got Eric Gordon, and remember against the Knicks, they died in the non-Embiid minutes. And so I don't think Drummond's great, but he can maybe eat 6 minutes in a playoff game. Go ahead.
Okay, so I really wanted to talk about this one because this is definitely a very interesting move. I think that I disagree with what Brew was saying in terms of, Paul George not wanting to be there and all that. Paul George wants his money, but he also does want to win. He wants to go to a place where he believes he can win. Other players, I know Joel Embiid is divisive among fans. Fan bases either seem to love him or hate him, or even media. Players universally love Joel Embiid. All the players love Joel. That's like, it's not even up for debate. All the other players absolutely love him. Even when he like trolls them and they talk trash, that they all accept that. They all appreciate that. It's very similar thing with Draymond Green. Draymond is very divisive in the media with fans, and he has a few enemies within other players, but the vast majority of players all absolutely love him. And again, it's just it can't even be argued. The big intense series a couple seasons ago with the Kings, De'Aaron Fox was like crying in Draymond's like shoulder, like in his chest after the Warriors beat them. Like, it's just immense respect, even though during that series Draymond Green was enemy number one. So and I feel like Joel Embiid isn't as intense as a Draymond, but the players absolutely love him. So Paul George wants to play with Joel Embiid. Like, there's just no doubt about that. I think this is a great move. Listen, in a perfect world, if you're the Sixers, you wish Paul George was like 4 years younger, right? Because you are starting to creep up in that age, and it's tough because you got to pretty much treat Joel Embiid like he's an old guy. And so now you have two old stars, essentially, which is, it's not that easy. Now you can say, well, hey, it's being bounced out a little bit with a Tyrese Maxey. The problem is, we know how this works. Age matters in the NBA, and typically you're not winning rings and able to really step up and be a leader even in your prime until you are 25, 26, 27. Like, that's how it goes. These guys aren't winning that early on, as we've just saw recently with Ant. Like, it matters, and how long it took for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And so Maxey is still very, 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 very young, right? He still has some big mistakes to make, unfortunately, and more maturity to come along. So it'll just be interesting to see how much they rely on Maxey versus Embiid versus George. I think, and if we take away all of that other stuff and we're just looking at it from a X's and O's on the court, I think it works out perfectly. And same thing with personality-wise. It's perfect because Embiid has the big personality, right? He's the gigantic monster. Maxey doesn't need any attention, and Paul George doesn't need any attention. And I think also, just from a developmental standpoint of Maxey, because obviously he's still being developed and matured, I love Paul George. He's going to learn so much from Paul George. I know they're different players and they bring different things, but he's going to pick up on different ways of being a leader, different ways of preparing that he did not get. Like, James Harden was trying to influence Maxey, and I was like, no, Maxey's such a great person and is going to be a great positive leader, and James Harden is the exact opposite of that. And fortunately, not much rubbed off on Maxey with regards to that. So that was good for the Sixers. I think the Sixers would still be better off if they could also maybe add another big piece. I know there was rumors, and I don't know if now that they got Paul George, if it's even possible, but getting like Brandon Ingram or one of those things, which then I think would put them at the very top to be the champions. But I don't know. I haven't looked at the salaries and all of that. I don't know what's possible, what they're asking for and all of that. If there's still more moves for the Sixers to be made, because I think the team right now is really, really great and deserves to be at the top, near top, as what is it right now? The odds are tied for the third best, which I think is totally fair. But it's like, right, what can put them over that hump? I think the Celtics are going to be really good. But the way I look at it is this. Even though Embiid wasn't fully healthy, and this whole conversation is predicated on Embiid actually being healthy. But let's say, even though Embiid last season wasn't 100% healthy, it's undeniable. I don't think how anyone could argue this. If you replace Tobias Harris with Paul George, the Sixers beat the Knicks. That's just like you have, unless you're the biggest Sixers hater or the biggest Knicks fan, it's just undeniable that those extra points is enough for the Sixers to win, right? And then at that point, I have to imagine that they would have beaten the Pacers. And then if they're going up against the Celtics, who now are down, like this is where it's interesting though, because it's like, I think the Sixers, again, if they had Paul George now, it would have been a very interesting series. Embiid would, at that point, would have had to have truly been playing like he is actually 100%. And or Kristaps Porzingis would have to have been also kind of banged up and injured or still not playing. Because if memory serves me correctly, right, he didn't play until the NBA Finals. And I don't know if that was because they knew that they could get by without it, or if they waited, and if they did play against a tough team like the Sixers, would have he came out to play? But if not, then I think it's very fair that the Sixers would have beaten the Celtics. If Porzingis was fully healthy and Embiid was still kind of banged up and wasn't kind of playing into basketball form, then I think it still would have been difficult, even with Tobias Harris, because we saw how high-powered the Celtics could be, and just also playing at home and how intense of an environment that could be. But I just think that it would have been a very competitive series, and the Sixers absolutely could have won, again, especially if Porzingis was injured. And then now that takes you to the finals, and it's like, if they played the Mavericks, which is what it would have been, I would have absolutely had the money on the Mavericks. Not on the Mavericks, on the Sixers. So it's all quite possible. It's all quite possible. But with all that said, you do have to give it to the Celtics. They did win. They did win convincingly. But they too also have the question of, will Porzingis be healthy again? Like, he's a very injury-prone person, and the Celtics are a different team without Porzingis. It would have been a lot harder for the Celtics to be as dominant against the Mavs if Porzingis never played. I mean, Porzingis was a major reason why they were able to, get out to those leads and do what they did. I think they definitely surpassed the Knicks and any of the other teams. So that's that. So I think the Sixers are in a great spot. It was interesting that we still put, where is it? No, not there. Where's the rankings? The Nuggets were still there. It's interesting that the Nuggets are still there and the Timberwolves have dropped. Now, the odds are a lot closer than it looks like, the way how it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I would think that the Timberwolves would still be up there. OKC is going to take a step forward. I think the Knicks made a splashy move, but I don't think it's enough. You're just talking about a lot of small guys, and you're just hoping that you're just going to be able to outshoot everyone. So I think basketball has some exciting times. I think when you get some of these stars support, it's exciting to watch Paul George with Joel Embiid, right? To me, that's just exciting basketball. It's exciting to watch Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown ball out and figure out, how is this going to go down? That's exciting. So I think at the very minimum, this is just an exciting move and just fun for the NBA as a whole, right? The Sixers have more clout and more energy and more buzz around them than the Los Angeles Lakers, than the Golden State Warriors. Those things matter. And that's why it would be cool if the Sixers were in a position, and again, I have no idea and I know they already can't do this because Klay Thompson is already signed with the Mavs, but if Klay Thompson went to the Mavs, if the Sixers, you have to look at it from an outside perspective if you're not a fan of the Sixers or just a general basketball fan, which I largely am. You just got to think of what makes exciting narratives. It was exciting for the Boston Celtics to win because they've been, with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that whole narrative, can they or can't they? And then they're able to finally win. That's really, really exciting. The Denver Nuggets came out of nowhere. That was really, really exciting. And now the Sixers, who have been struggling and having their injury issues and their coaching issues and all of this, if they just were able to build like this dominant team and take over the NBA, not unlike the Celtics did last season, that's great business as well, right? Like that's really exciting. That gets eyeballs to the screen. Everyone talking about Joel Embiid, is he winning another MVP? Who can stop the Sixers? Like that's what really carried last season was the Celtics. I mean, they were trying so hard to make the Lakers and the Warriors relevant last season, and it was like it's just not happening. No one thinks either of those teams can do anything, and everyone was trying to talk themselves out of believing in the Celtics. Like the narrative was more like it would be a disaster if the Celtics lose. Like it was talked about in a more negative light than a positive light, rather than like, look at what the Celtics are doing. Isn't this amazing? It was just more framed in a way of like, if the Celtics don't win it all, this is a disaster and you have to blow the whole team up. So it's just interesting how certain narratives are constructed. And right now, from my viewpoint, at the very least, just the offseason and free agency, the Sixers kind of have won that and have that momentum. As we can see, they jumped up tied for third, right? Like they are now with the Celtics and the Nuggets, who won the last 2 championships. And now you have the Sixers. So I just would like to see if the Sixers could make one more big move, one more pretty prominent strategic move that really puts them over that limit, if possible, because, you know, especially with Joel Embiid, you just never know. So that's why that's also part of the problem with the NBA media or even fan bases banking too much on the Sixers being like a big storyline this coming season or next season, however we want to frame it. And because you're just like, well, what's going on with Joel Embiid? Is he going to actually be healthy? Can he make it for a full season? If he makes it through the full season, will he make it through the playoffs? You just have no idea. But either way, it's all exciting. And it definitely will get eyeballs to the screen. It's just fun to watch superstars play with other superstars. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think that the Sixers are legitimately have true NBA title odds? Do you think they should be favored in the East? Do you think it's still going to be trouble for them? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.